Australians like to use their cards when they shop, and they especially like to use EFTPOS. Literally billions of transactions take place in Australia in a year. But there are big changes happening later this year to the way those payments are processed. And according to one independent operator in the EFTPOS industry, that could make the system unaffordable for many small businesses.
Australia can be proud that it has a great domestic debit card system. We all should worry about that this domestic alternative to the global scheme survives.
You may never have heard of Tyro, but it's actually Australia's smallest bank. Not an ordinary bank, mind you. It has $10 million on hand and won't take deposits. That's because it's simply there to process EFTPOS payments.
We are now 4 years in operation. We are serving 4,000 merchants. We are processing $2 billion worth of transaction per year, and we have about 6,000 terminals out there.
Taking on the big four banks has meant any success is hard won.
One challenge all along is to flatten barriers. You know, initially it was gaining access, and the Reserve Bank had to force access. Then it was overcoming the fact that the big banks were unused to new entrants and thus didn't know how to accommodate it.
SMEs are Tyro's principal market, and one way Tyro has tried to distinguish itself is by tailoring its software for each client.
So that the white-cloth table restaurant gets his EFTPOS solution and medical practice gets its EFTPOS solution. These different merchants have different requirements.
2 years ago, Australia's banks and big retailers formed a company called ePal to manage and develop the EFTPOS system. Recently, it announced significant changes to the charges for each payment.
In the old days, the banks paid the merchant community for each EFTPOS transaction. From now on, the merchants will have to pay 5 cents instead of getting 5 cents. And then Coles and Woolworths, sitting around the table in that company, said, but not with us. We don't like to pay this. They have direct contracts with the banks. They continue to be paid 5 cents. Nobody is treated equally now. And the SME community has now to pay what I call an EFTPOS tax.
ePal argues the new system will fund the upgrades needed so that EFTPOS keeps up with Visa and MasterCard.
Now, the big banks, they've done it for Visa and MasterCard, so they have to do it now for the domestic EFTPOS system. But the major investment is actually with the 325,000 merchants out in the field who have to upgrade 700,000 EFTPOS terminals. So we are slapping them now with more fee, and then we expect them to carry the burden of the upgrade.
Tyro fears making merchants pay will mean some will decide it's simply not worth their while.
The merchants will have to decide on whether his profit margin is fat enough to absorb it, or whether he has to increase prices, or whether he refrains from offering EFTPOS to his clients.
The new bank plans to fight being forced to implement the new fee structure.
It discriminates against somebody who is an acquirer only. Don't forget, the big banks have it as a revenue line. We're also repudiating it for our SME customers. Not only would they be charged higher, but they also would have a competitive disadvantage versus Coles and Woolworths.
Jos Stolman believes encouraging the establishment of more new banks will in itself restrain anti-competitive behaviour and encourage innovation.
We have to make Tyro significantly more successful, and I think Australia needs more Tyros. So we need to think through how we encourage, nurture more new entrants and innovators in the banking space and also in other spaces.
Rebecca Dash reporting.